this evening, Maria Phillips, Kids of America's Heroes, COA, as it's known.
Yes.
All right, so you're the daughter of a World War II veteran.
I am.
Why did you form this group? Why was it necessary?
Well, with any beginning, there's a real beginning. And my journey for COA began in 1941. No, I was not born then.
No, so you're going back when your dad
I'm going
enlisted.
way back. Yes, he was at UConn, a student at UConn, and woke up that December morning to the same earth-shaking news that World War II.
Did he have other people who had served in the military, or was he the first guy?
My dad was first-generation American.
You said to me when you walked in here tonight that you read a story about your dad that you hadn't known. Tell me about it.
Well, he was, to set it up, he was a navigator on B-17s. And he flew 25 missions over Germany. Wow. And he flew an additional 5 over Belgium and France. And this is when B-17s were being shot down right and left. And the story that I read came from 1971, an AP article, where he talks about, there was a big reunion after, you know, the guys had finally gotten together. And he talks a story of, it was flight number 13 of their 30 missions. And the Germans, they had to go to Politz, Germany. And the Germans had 350 flak ready to go. And they fired at the plane. And at the plane, my dad, his team stayed in formation. The Flying Fortress flew as like a bird formation. And they stayed in their right formation, and they went on to their flight. But what happened was they lost 7 planes around them. 7. So when they landed back in England, they counted the holes in the plane. There were over 140 holes in that plane alone. Some so large that you could fit your shoulder through.
Oh my gosh.
So when you talk about our veterans and what they've gone through and what they've seen, you have to remember that it's real. It's all real. So that one flight, that one mission, number 13, although it proved to be good luck for them because they landed safely and went on to more missions, wasn't that fortunate for many. Psychologically, it takes a toll on people. To see your friends fall out of formation, and to have your plane shot up as badly as it was. They were wearing flak jackets and flak suits, so no one was injured tremendously on that one small B-17. But they felt the shaking and I'm sure such trauma.
As a child of a guy that served in World War II, what did that do to your family? What did it do to your mom? How much did you know that was going on?
Well, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and my sister was born a couple of years after World War II. Growing up, my mother used to say to her, "Your father hasn't been the same since the war." My mom had met my father in 1939, and they spent the rest of their lives together. But for the older siblings in my family, they had heard those words. "Dad hasn't been the same since the war. Please excuse him." My father was great. He was a wonderful provider. He came back from the war and finished his education and became a dentist. He was philanthropic. He would provide free, he was, like I said, a dentist. He would provide free dental care to people who couldn't afford it, because in those days you helped others. A great, great man, great father. But he had problems that were not seen outside of the home.
PTSD.
He had PTSD, and I'm sure TBI, after the story I just told you, that, you know, when the plane shakes up, your brain gets a little rattled up, so. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of World War II guys came home and they just never talked about it.
They didn't.
My late father-in-law never talked about the Korean War. Never talked about it until he was near death. Then he talked about it. So all of this is pent up. So you, as a child of a World War II veteran, somewhere along the line you decided to find the money, tell me where you found it, to form COA.
Yes, my father passed away in 2012, and he left us one of the first bits of inheritance that we had received, the 4 of us, was his life insurance policy from World War II. So taking that money, I used it and invested it in starting Kids of America's Heroes. Now let me tell you a quick story about Kids of America's Heroes. To get to that point, I had done a lot of research and found that children of our military, there were 2 million since 9/11, 2 million children who live in the shadows of war here, the sons and daughters of our active duty military, deployed National Guard and Reserve. And these children suffer fear, anticipatory grief. They go through so many emotions that it's just really sad. So going back to the money, I had started to look into what I could do to help our veterans, help our military, and I saw that nobody was helping their children. So what better way to serve our military abroad than to support their children on the home front? I took that money and I invested, and I looked into a 501c3 and found an umbrella 501c3 fiscal sponsor. This is where the story gets peculiar. See, I believe everything happens for a reason. Everyone that lives in Connecticut or in our surrounding states suffered such a loss on September 11th. And when 9/11 came, every year since then, I've listened to or watched on television the memorial service as it's taking place. So, like any other 9/11, I'm sitting in my office on September 11th, 2015, and I'm listening to the names being read in the memorial service. And at each bell toll for each marking of something that happens, I would bow my head and take a moment of silence. On that day, at exactly 10:28, my computer pinged at that exact time. And I looked at what the message was that was coming across. It was an email. It was a congratulatory email that Kids of America's Heroes was going to be fiscally sponsored by United Charitable. Now, if I don't look at that as a sign from the heavens, from above, telling me that I am on a path and on a direction and on a journey, then I don't really know what is.
Who has helped you along the way? Because it's in its infancy.
It is.
And it was founded here, but it's starting to go national.
It is. It is. Well, Jason Burke, who is my co-founder, he is a Navy captain and aviator, and he and I put this together. We started a group of volunteers. There are 11 of us strong, everyone from Anna Rita Racine to Teresa Harris, Joanne Bush. I could go through them all, Dennis Gogan. They're all fabulous people. We all have gotten together to push this cause along, and every one of us comes from a different background and a different life that has been military affected.
What are some of the initiatives that you do for children?
The biggest one that I can tell you about is our advocacy programs. We advocate for children. Speaking to you right now, speaking at Yale last week to the Pediatric Society, having exposure to bring the attention of these children to the public, because nobody really knows. Nobody gives it a second thought. And especially now on Veterans Day, we look at it and we think, oh, you know, well, we thank you for your service. The children and the spouses, they also need to be thanked because they sacrifice as well. The team is strong, and we continue to grow and grow. We even have people in Okinawa that are on our board, on our team, that help us out. Meg Flanagan.
So you want to be in every state?
Every state in the United States.
Is this a global initiative?
It isn't. It's a stateside. So it's really the United States. I mean, Hawaii, of course, and Alaska are included in that, but it's our states.
Where do you need help the most?
Wow, volunteerism. We really do. And we need to get the word out. We need people to understand that children are living in an environment where they need assistance and they need help. We really have to get that word out there. We're in the process right now of recruiting therapists so we can train them in military family life counseling and advocacy. So when children have a crisis during any cycle of deployment, they can get on the phone, like a 211 call, which is a great thing we have in the state. Only this time we're going to do it through FaceTime or through Skyping, so that children have someone to speak with, to talk about. I usually hear from my mom every night. She's deployed. But I haven't heard from her in the last 2 days, and I'm really worried.
Those fears are real.
Those fears are real, extremely real.
You have a bear program.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Bear Hug. We send out bear hugs, which are care packages every month of someone's deployment, so the children receive a bear hug, letting them know that someone is thinking about them.
How many are you sending out? And where's
So
the money?
far-
Where's the money coming from?
The money comes from, we do a lot of private donation. We do not take any federal funds at this time. So it's all through private donation and grants. So we have a lot of great organizations that have provided us with some money that pays for postage. Postage is very expensive. To date, this year, we have sent more than 2,000. So it's great. I had someone came to my office and dropped off about 150 Pez packages. Pez,
That's
great
awesome.
package. But
Which is
it's
located in the
amazing.
state of Connecticut.
It is located
Yes.
here. And we mailed those out in the month of October, which was great for the Halloween kids. And each package has a note in it. And the note is from a civilian counterpart child, thanking the child it's going to for their service and sacrifice. So it's a drawing and a little note. And it ranges from young children all the way on up to 17 years old.
So your wish list of this in its infancy, as we said, 2 or 3 years, if you had to put that list together, what do you need right now to make this grow the way you want it to?
I would say that the funding is one of the biggest things that we need. To send out those cute little Pez packages was $3.50, courtesy of the United States Postal Service. $3.50 times 180 kids that are receiving bear hugs in the month of October. That's pretty hefty, and that's a small item. We send footballs to teenage boys. We send, the items are larger. Last year I had a fabulous donation from a gentleman who gave me what do you call it? Legos, boxes of Legos. Legos are great as an in-kind donation, and we could send a lot out. But the cost associated with that is tremendous. Also launching our new program with training MFLACs, we also have to take into consideration that once those military family life counselors are trained, we have to get the word out about that. So marketing and advertising, believe it or not, is a staple of what we have to do. How are we supposed to tell someone in Michigan, say, that there's a place for them to turn if they're in crisis? It's a non-medical turn, but it's a turn.
Well, I can't believe that when you researched this, there were no programs across the country to take care of the children who have issues with their folks being gone.
There are entities that do take care of spouse and family, but nothing in particular to the children, nothing at all. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing. There had been one. It was run by the government. And when the DOD started to lose funds, it was one of the first things to go. It was in combination with the 4-H clubs. So it was stationed throughout the entire country. But federal grants and federal money dried up, and so did their program. They closed on March 31st of 2015.
So you're taking over.
We took over.
This is a legacy to your dad.
It is.
When you think about working on it, and it is difficult to build such a program, what keeps you going?
Someone once asked me, how do you attempt to accomplish all of this? And I said, well, an old adage, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So I look at it as it's one bite at a time, and we will get to the point that it needs to be. I'll tell you, Ann, coming here tonight, I am more of a behind-the-scenes person. I'm the person.
You've got to get out there,
I'm
Maria.
the person that's the rah-rah, everyone go get 'em type person. I'm not the in front of the camera.
But you have a story.
I have a story.
You have a story,
I do.
and keep telling it. Maria Phillips with COA, Kids of America's Heroes. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Thank
All
you so
the luck
much.
in the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Spend all night kissing and the bumps right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked if I'm so wishing to find a piece of the door, but it's also a metaphor. Need to keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride.